You're not seeing reality. Everything you see, hear, feel, it's a manipulated version of the world. Your brain doesn't show you what is. It shows you what you need to see to survive. And that changes everything. Because if your senses are lying to you, how do you know you're even awake right now? How do you know your life is actually yours? Here's the disturbing truth. 99% of what you see is not real. You live in a simulation, but not one made of pixels or code. This one's built from memories, beliefs, emotions, and stories. And it was installed without you ever noticing. But hold on, this isn't just a wild conspiracy theory. It's science, it's psychology, it's philosophy, it's spiritual. In this video, you'll discover the hidden mechanism that's been warping your perception since the day you were born, and why this illusion is so powerful you could live your entire life without ever knowing you were dreaming. If you have the courage to look behind the curtain, stay with me, because once you start to see, there's no going back. Oh, and before we go any deeper, if this kind of content stirs something inside you, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. That way, YouTube will show you more videos like this, and honestly, it could change everything you think you know about reality. Here's the truth. You've never seen the world as it truly is. And it's not because you don't want to, it's because you can't. Your eyes, they're not windows. They're limited sensors, picking up only a tiny slice of the spectrum. Your hearing? It detects less than 1% of the actual sounds in the universe. Your brain? It doesn't interpret raw data. It builds a simulation, a simplified, symbolic, functional version of reality. You see what you need to see to survive, nothing more. Science calls this the predictive model of consciousness. Your brain predicts what's going to happen based on what it already believes is true, and filters everything you perceive through that lens. So no, you don't see reality. You see what you believe to be real, and that is dangerous. Because if your perception is built on beliefs, who gave you those beliefs? Who decided what's true for you? Your parents? Your culture? The media? Religion? School? From the moment you were born, you've been immersed in stories. Narratives about what's right and wrong, what's beautiful, what's possible, who you're supposed to be. And the scariest part, you never even noticed it happening. But today, maybe for the first time, you have a chance to see the code behind the matrix. And I want to invite you to take a closer look. Because in this video, we're going to crack the system. We'll explore how this illusion works, and how you can start to uninstall the programming that was never really yours. But before we go deeper, let me ask you something. Have you ever felt, deep down, that something is off with the world? That there's a hidden layer behind everything, and no one ever told you about it? Drop your thoughts in the comments. What's something that feels wrong, even if you can't explain why? Let's start with an uncomfortable idea. The world you see was invented, literally. Your brain doesn't record reality like a camera. It builds a plausible version of the world. Based on patterns it already knows, you're surrounded by walls, sounds, faces, objects. But the truth is, what you see, hear, and feel is a mental construction, an internal hologram, a guess, a compressed version of the universe. And it starts before you're even born. When a baby opens its eyes for the first time, it doesn't see the world. It receives raw light, no shape, no meaning, no sense. It's the brain that turns that chaos into mom, light, danger, safety. And over time, that translation becomes faster and more invisible. But here's the problem. That translation can be wrong, and most of the time, it is. What we call reality is just what's left over after the brain filters, deletes, distorts, rewrites, and simplifies every bit of information you receive. Think you're in control of your mind? Try this. Close your eyes and try to remember exactly what 3 people were wearing today on the street. You probably can't. Your brain just threw that data away. It wasn't important. But what if one of those people had something crucial, dangerous, life-changing? You wouldn't see it, because your brain doesn't show you what exists. It shows you what it thinks matters. You live in an edited version of reality. Now stop and think. Who taught your brain what matters? Let's rewind. From the moment you started learning about the world, you were taught to see in a certain way. Someone told you what's right, what's beautiful, what success looks like, what's normal. Those ideas became filters. And now, every time you look at the world, your brain activates those filters like invisible glasses. The result? You don't see things as they are. You see things as you were trained to see them. And this isn't just philosophy, it's science. A famous study at Harvard showed that when participants were focused on counting basketball passes, over half of them didn't even see a man in a gorilla suit walk across the court. That's right. A guy in a full gorilla costume walks into the frame, pounds his chest, and still, most people didn't notice. Why? Because the brain deleted it. It didn't match the script. This is what's happening to you all the time. Now imagine the impact of that on your life. You're missing opportunities, ignoring patterns, blocking connections, overlooking warnings, all because your mind is busy keeping the simulation running. And that simulation has a name: ego. The ego is the mental structure that organizes your identity. It's the character you play, a bundle of memories, traumas, beliefs, and stories about who you are. The problem is, the ego wants to protect that story at all costs, even if it's false, even if it's destroying you. And to do that, it hides anything that threatens the narrative. You believe you're not good enough? Your brain will ignore every sign that says otherwise. You think you'll never be happy? Your brain will seek out situations to confirm that and erase the ones that prove the opposite. That's called the confirmation bias, and it's one of the core mechanisms of the simulation. The whole world could be telling you it's going to work, but if your internal script says it won't, then for you, it won't. It's like being trapped in a movie where the ending's already written. But here's the first twist in this story. You can rewrite the script, and it starts with one brutal step: doubt your own vision. Because the problem isn't what you see. The problem is what you think you're seeing. And for that, you have to silence the character. You have to pause the ego. Meditation, conscious breathing, radical presence, they all aim for the same thing: to suspend the simulation. It's like punching a hole in the matrix, and for a few seconds, you glimpse the code behind the screen. But here's a warning. Seeing reality as it truly is can hurt, because reality wasn't made to comfort you. It was made to wake you up. And waking up hurts. It's like leaving a warm dream and realizing the world is more complex, more chaotic, more mysterious than you ever imagined, but also more free. Because when you break the filters, you stop being controlled. You start to choose what you want to see. And that's the key that changes everything. Now, let's go deeper. Because once you realize that your reality is built on filters, illusions, and past programming, you face a terrifying question. Who would you be without all that? No beliefs, no labels, no trauma to justify your fear, no stories to explain your limitations. Who's left? Most people never ask that question. It's too risky. Because if your beliefs crumble, so does your identity. But here's the secret. That collapse is the beginning of freedom. The ancient mystics knew this. The Buddha called it anatta, the not self. Modern neuroscience is catching up. Studies show that the self is not a fixed entity. It's a mental process, constantly reconstructed from memory and expectation. In other words, you're not a thing. You're a story. A story told so many times, you started to believe it was real. But stories can be edited. You can change the narrator, rewrite the ending, remove the fear, the guilt, the shame, and introduce clarity, strength, and silence. But that won't happen by accident. You have to become radically conscious of what you consume. Because every image you see, every voice you hear, every scroll on your feed programs you. The simulation is not just internal, it's cultural. It's reinforced by media, social networks, trends, and systems that profit from your blindness. Ever wonder why fear goes viral? Why outrage spreads faster than truth? Because those emotions keep you reactive, distracted, contained. They keep your simulation running in survival mode, never calm enough to ask, what is actually real here? We live in a world of synthetic narratives, influencers who don't live the life they preach, news that selects outrage over accuracy, social structures designed to reward appearance, not authenticity, and in the middle of it all, your nervous system, overwhelmed. Anxiety becomes your baseline. You think it's your fault, but it's not. Your system was hijacked, and now you have a choice. You can keep scrolling, consuming, surviving inside a version of reality built for you, or you can stop. You can start observing the simulation, not just living inside it. You can create gaps in the narrative, moments where you breathe, witness, feel the rawness of life without filters. It won't be easy. Your ego will resist. Your body will panic. Your habits will scream. But something deeper will rise. A presence, silent, aware, unshakable. The part of you that was never a story. The part that doesn't need to believe because it simply sees. And once you see, even for a second, you can't unsee. That's how the unraveling begins. Not by force, not by self-help hacks, but by seeing clearly. Because in the end, the truth doesn't set you free. It dissolves the walls you didn't even know were there. And what's left is freedom. Now that you've glimpsed how perception builds your reality, here's a twist you didn't see coming. Time, is also part of the illusion. You think the past is behind you, and the future is ahead. But your brain doesn't see time like a clock. It sees it like a story. Each memory you have isn't a replay. It's a reconstruction, rebuilt every time you recall it. And every time you remember something, you change it. That means your past isn't fixed. It's editable, malleable, subject to the filters of who you are now. So here's the disturbing truth. You're making decisions today based on memories that may have never happened the way you think they did. And the future? It doesn't exist yet. It's imagined, based on the same mental patterns that shaped your past. So what you're really living in is a loop, a simulation of time, where your identity justifies your fears and your fears shape your expectations. And that loop feels safe, predictable, until it doesn't. Because eventually, your soul starts knocking. You feel it in moments of stillness, when everything around you is normal. But inside, something screams, this isn't it. This isn't all there is. That's the beginning of the spiritual awakening. Not angels, not lights in the sky, but a quiet, terrifying sense that the life you've been living is not your own. Because if everything you believe is based on stories, and those stories were installed without your consent, then who are you really? Here's the answer most people avoid. You are the space where those stories appear. You are the awareness, not the thought. You are the silence, not the narrative. And every moment you spend identifying with the simulation, you forget who you are. But in the gap between thoughts, you remember. Now let's go further. Because this illusion doesn't just shape your inner world. It governs your relationships, your purpose, your very sense of love. Have you ever noticed how much of your emotional pain isn't about what happened, but about what you believed it meant? They didn't text you back. Your brain said, I'm not worthy. Someone leaves. Your brain says, I'm unlovable. Failure happens. Your brain screams, I'm a loser. But those conclusions aren't truths. They're habits, mental shortcuts formed by years of narrative reinforcement. The good news? You can interrupt the pattern. How? By recognizing the emotion and not trusting the story it tells. That fear, it's not the voice of truth. It's the voice of programming. That shame, it's not who you are. It's a leftover script from a version of you that no longer exists. You don't have to believe every thought that appears in your mind. You can witness it, feel it, and choose something else. That's the superpower the system doesn't want you to remember. Because if you can choose your thoughts, you can choose your life. Let's talk about freedom, because what most people call freedom is just a better-looking version of the cage. They change jobs, they travel, they switch partners, they go vegan, they shave their heads, they chant mantras. But deep down, the same old narrative is running. I'm not enough. I have to fix myself. I have to become someone. That's not freedom. That's self-improvement wrapped in self-rejection. And the system loves it. Because as long as you think the answer is out there, you'll never look in here. And here's the final glitch in the simulation. You're already what you're seeking. You've just been trained not to see it. Conditioned to believe that peace, joy, clarity, they're rewards you earn after doing enough, healing enough, proving enough. But consciousness doesn't work like that. You don't become worthy. You remember that you already are. And when that remembering hits, everything shifts. You stop fighting your emotions and start listening to them. You stop chasing purpose and start living with presence. You stop asking, who am I? And start being. And in that state, the simulation starts to break. People around you will feel it. Some will be drawn to your energy. Others will reject it. Because truth is disruptive. It threatens the structures that people depend on. But you won't need validation anymore. Because you'll have something more powerful than approval. You'll have inner sight. And with that, you become dangerous to the system. Not because you attack it, but because you no longer feed it. You stop playing roles. You stop believing lies. You stop reacting to illusions. And you start creating reality from the inside out. Not the version they sold you. Not the one built on fear, shame, or comparison. But the one rooted in awareness, integrity, stillness. And then, the final veil drops. You realize you were never trapped. You were never broken. You were just asleep. And now, you're waking up, one breath at a time. But here's the twist no one tells you. Even after you wake up, the illusion doesn't disappear. It whispers. It adapts. It finds new ways to wear the mask of truth. And sometimes, it sounds just like you. Because the mind is clever. It doesn't want to lose control. It'll use your voice, your memories, your logic to pull you back in. So the real journey isn't about waking up once. It's about choosing to wake up again and again. To keep seeing through the lies. To keep choosing what's real. And sometimes that means sitting with silence instead of seeking answers. Sometimes it means unlearning everything that gave you comfort. Sometimes it means asking, if this isn't real, then what is? You don't need to have the answer right now. You just need to stay curious. Because something else is coming. Something most people aren't ready for. But you are. And it's waiting for you in the next video.